Yeah, he usually drops off his daughter.
It's live. If you want to go, I can stop it if you want me to.
Do I just want to start when I'm sneaking?
Yeah, it's
Okay. We are live. Okay. Village of Minerva Park Council meeting, March 9th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. We will start with roll call. Councilperson Kloss.
Present.
Councilperson McNamara.
Present.
Councilperson Camera.
Present.
Councilperson Wolf.
Here.
Council President Bruger.
Here.
And Councilperson Martin.
Here.
All right, we have everyone in attendance, and next we will do Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First up, we have February 9th council meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, and let's then move to, and those are approved. March 2nd, work session meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And we are passed on those. Moving straight to village reports, let's start with Chief Delp for the police department.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add to the report I submitted, but if there are any questions, I can answer those.
Anybody?
The substantial increase in traffic stops in the report, is that just, is that increased enforcement? Do we have a reason or an understanding of why that is?
I think it was just the fair weather in February. More people were out.
Is the locations listed anywhere? I know we spoke at the last safety meeting about Minerva Lake Road perception of speed.
No.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. Our fiscal officer is out of the office today, and he will be at the next meeting. Next is Mike Flickinger's report, and that would be me. Task order number 14, Westerville City School District Minerva Park School Plan Review. We coordinated with the district's design professional regarding stormwater improvements at Minerva France Elementary School. And they coordinated with the district design professional regarding stormwater improvements associated with the proposed track complex at Hawthorne Elementary School. Task order number 20 is the 2022 Storm Sewer Improvement Project. They continue finalizing designs, documents pending permanent and temporary easements, and they began meeting with Jordan Road property owners to discuss permanent and temporary easements. For those that are not aware, we will be reaching out to everybody along that side of Jordan Road here in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. Task order number 23, the Lakes Master Plan. They are coordinating with the surveying professional who will be providing the surveys along the lake system. They started preliminary tasks associated with preparing dredging recommendations for the lake system. And they have begun the literature and legislation review associated with preparing recommendations for buffers, vegetation control, and lawn chemical programs. Task order number 24 is the village council meetings. They have met with the village to discuss potential funding opportunities for electric vehicle chargers within the village. That was myself a couple weeks ago. We briefly talked about funding options for electric vehicle chargers at the new building as it continues construction and getting that done before the construction is done. And then coordinating with the village on potential traffic control changes at the intersection of Maplewood and Alder Vista, which you guys will see in front of you tonight. Task order number 26 is the CCTV analysis. They continue to prepare and propose documents to solicit proposals from contractors to perform cleaning and televising services. The current schedule is to advertise on March 16th and to open bids on April 7th. This will be the first time the village is using Bid Express, so we will continue to coordinate with their customer service to ensure a smooth bidding process. And that is Mike Flickinger's report. I will be meeting with Mike next week. If anybody has any questions for him, please reach out. Mike will also be in attendance the last meeting of April. That meeting will be the second meeting of the month, due to the fact that Mike usually talks for a good hour or so going over all of the projects. So be prepared for that. Next, we have legal, Jesse Sheehan.
Nothing to report besides continued work on the zoning code rewrite based on feedback last week. Get something to you here shortly.
Perfect. Any questions for our legal team? Okay. Eric Fisher, our village planner.
Thank you, Mayor. As noted probably by anyone that's gone by the building, it's continuing at a nice pace without delay. They have enclosed, they're in the process of enclosing what would be the new community room. They have successfully framed out what is the police station. And they should, as soon as they get that under cover, they'll be pouring the concrete. I would expect that to all be done within 4 weeks. We can do a nice little council tour, I think. So we can walk through all the sections there, see how things are progressing. And then to follow up on the EV charging stations, that I tossed that off to our architect and Weaver Construction for some discussion. They got back some information. They're proceeding with AP's got some selections, and we found a good site right by the power pole in the front, which won't take up actually any parking spaces because we can put it right by the the charging transformer or whatever, and the split for the 2 spaces next to it. And so they're proceeding with something with AEP at the moment to assess the location.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for our village planner at this time? Okay, next, our zoning officer has been out of the office. He is back in the office, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free to email him and we will get a report as soon as possible. Next, we have planning and zoning, Councilperson Wolf.
I don't believe planning and zoning has met since the last council meeting, right? So at our last meeting, the zoning code rewrite was voted up to council. Our next meeting is next Wednesday, the 15th.
All right. I don't have a person yet that is going to be doing the MPCA updates. We can talk about that later if somebody wants to volunteer to attend their meetings. But at this time, I don't have somebody listed for that. Does anybody have anything?
I attended it last night.
You did?
So,
Okay.
Yeah, so, they're currently looking to, see if we can do carriage rides this next year. So far, they've had no luck. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to find someone to do that. They're looking at their membership drive. They're thinking about changing the calendar year, to the calendar year instead of October to September, or however they've been doing it in the past. Easter egg hunt's coming up April 1st, 10 to noon at the basketball court. And they would like to coordinate with the village on a village cleanup day. And we talked about possibly doing that around Earth Day when we have the trees to plant and all that other type of stuff. So somewhere around April 15th. Earth Day is actually April 22nd. So I told her we could talk about getting a dumpster. I thought we got one for free each year. So
We get 2 a year.
that's the gist of their meeting last night. So.
Did anybody say anything about closing the connector for the Easter egg? Because they do reach out. Okay.
In the past, they
Not for
haven't.
Easter?
Well, I think last Easter, they were at that, one church over on Jordan.
Yes.
The
Okay.
years before that, they've just utilized mostly the ground
Okay.
around the playground itself, so
Perfect.
they haven't spilled over to the street.
Awesome.
But I'm saying that not being as part of the planning or
Okay.
not.
I just wanted to make
But
sure that-
in past, they have never closed
Okay.
the street.
Sarah was,
What's it? It was the year before that.
Sarah was not there last night, so.
Okay.
We'll, I can reach out to Sarah.
It's a process, so if we do have to do it. Okay, so next we will move to the village committee reports, and we will start with Councilperson Wolf for finance.
Finance Committee met last month with Fiscal Officer Wilczek. We reviewed several different formats for monthly reports and gave our preference, and we can look forward to seeing those reports in that format going forward. We will meet again probably next month at some point, but there is no immediate plan.
Perfect.
I know.
Next, we have councilperson costs for streets.
Was in contact with Mike Flickinger, and we're trying to reach out to the Jordan Road residents in order to keep that going. We need to get a meeting on the books, so probably not. I don't know. I'll send an email about how you guys plan.
Yes. Perfect. I guess I feel like there was something else that needed to go, and we'll talk about it later. Okay. Next, we have services. Councilperson Martin.
No report as of yet, as I've just taken over this committee.
Perfect. And then we can, at the end of this, sometimes what we'll do is just try to schedule some meetings. So at the end of this, we'll try to get some scheduled, that way we can get them out.
Okay.
Next, we have Councilperson Camera for Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Rec and Parks.
Yep, so, thank you. Rex and Parks, yep. Recap.
I know. I'm never gonna get that right.
So, we did get some estimates for fixing the awning at the pool. If you did not know, it blew off during the storm. And, so we are, waiting to get that fixed. Membership is going well, pool membership enrollment's going well. And then I walked the grounds, most of the reserves with Lisa Crack, Lisa Crack. Yeah, that's right.
That is,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
right.
Last week, or Sunday, to talk about the tree plantings. So she did order 350 trees and bushes that should be picked up on the 13th of April. So I'm working with her on coordinating, like I said, that Earth Day kind of, let's plant trees, let's clean up the neighborhood. And we kind of talked about maybe concentrating in some areas the trees rather than spreading them out through everywhere, just so that you can see the bigger impact of them. And I think that's all right now. Okay. Oh, we have our meeting coming up on the 20th. And we're meeting with engineering firm that's gonna talk to us about possibly building a new pool complex.
Do we remember again? I know we said it the last time. Is it 6:30?
I believe it's 6:30. He said to plan on a 2-hour meeting.
6:30, and it's here
It's here. Yep.
on the 20th.
Correct.
March 20th.
It's a Monday, 6:30.
Perfect.
On our wish list.
Yeah, bring your wish list with you. That's what you want to see. All right, so then let's go to Councilperson McNamara for safety.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Safety met earlier in February where we introduced our new council member to the safety committee and had a meeting with Mr. Chianti about the code enforcement moving under safety. We also discussed the possibility of some street lights on Minerva Lake Road and Farview, which, has there been any update on that? Or just where we were at the last meeting we talked, the work session? Okay, so that is still in progress, but I will report with any updates as they are available.
Perfect. Next, we have Council President Bruger for legislation.
All right, we had a legislative committee meeting just last Thursday. We are, as the, what's running out of my head, as planning and zoning is starting to come towards the end of their review of the code, we are starting to take that up in legislative committee and looking for any code that they were either unsure of or just wanted more input on. I want to say the big one we talked about last week was trees, in particular street trees. This is mostly just for the newer section of the village that has the sidewalks and the grass strip with 2 trees per house planted there, and we were looking at what should be done with them if they die or need to be replaced. I'm going to say this, and I shouldn't. Currently, it's leaning towards the homeowner's responsibility, but only one tree. He's shaking his head because I shouldn't say this. This has not been solidified.
You know
This-
better.
We said it at the meeting. They can listen to that meeting
Yeah,
too.
listen to the meeting.
They
Anytime
can listen to
someone
that
prefaces,
meeting.
I shouldn't say this, and then they say it, you know they're making a bad choice.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and I shake my
Anyway,
head,
that's
too.
where things are leaning, but no final decision has actually been made. It has not, will not come in until the code is finished. I like keeping people updated, you know that.
That was a me move, just so you know. Brian always takes his head at me too. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Did you have anything else for legislation?
I mean, other than the legislation that's coming up this evening.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna keep mine, you guys all kept yours simple, so I'm gonna keep mine simple. Pool memberships are for sale online. Start getting them in. Almost everything is electronic now, thanks to Jason and Barb. So we really appreciate that. We're still working on a couple little tweaks for down at the pool. I think people will be excited to see some of those things come about as we get closer. We are still working with Aqueduct to get some fountains in the new section, and hopefully we'll have something in the next couple weeks for that. And then the other thing that we will start working on next week, now that we are past our 30 days, is we will start working with our engineer and our Bid Express. Again, this is, we're pulling this out with Bid Express, a couple different things. We expect to have the shelter and some information on the maintenance garage moving forward after Monday. And that's all I have. So next, we will move to citizen comments.
Citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens who would like to address at this time? All right, I have a fancy timer now for you. Hopefully it's big enough that you'll be able to see the little circle.
I
And you can
appreciate
keep
that.
track of your
So
time.
you're gonna-
I'm not sure if it's big enough or not, but
The stoplight was a little juvenile,
yeah.
you know?
Well, I appreciate that, but as long as I can see it, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
All right.
I have to hit the start before I flip it around, otherwise there'll be a lot of this going on that we don't need.
Tony Benedetti, 2937 Berry Lane Court. Tonight I want to talk about this resolution that you're talking about passing for capping the fees or on the fee schedule. You know, I don't really understand why it's necessary to pass a resolution for this group to commit to not raising the fees unnecessarily. There's nothing you guys can put in this resolution that will, if you really want to talk about ways in saving the residents money when it comes to the fees that they have to pay, you need to start talking about why they need to get these permits in the first place. I've come here and I've asked the last council president to tell me where it says, show me where it says you need a permit for a driveway. I've asked this, I've lost track of how many times I've asked this group to point out where it says you need a permit for a driveway or a patio. Again, you guys are all responsible or all capable of answering this question. You've all taken an oath to uphold the laws of the village, and you're in the process of going over the zoning codes. So it shouldn't be information that's not right at your hands right now. So, you know, I don't understand what you accomplish by making people get a permit for a shed or a driveway or a patio. There are no, when it comes to a shed, there's no standards about what's an acceptable shed and what isn't an acceptable shed. The only issue is where they're putting it at. And why do you have to have the code enforcement officer come out and inspect this when in the past there are fences that have been put up in other people's property? It's been pointed out to the council, to the code enforcement officer, and you don't do anything. You turn it over so the residents have to take the people to court. So why are you making people get a permit for a fence when you don't even check out to make sure that it's on their property? And if it isn't on the property, you don't tell them to fix it. So, again, Dave, if you want to do something that really helps the residents out, incorporate the code rewrite into why do we make people get a permit for these things in the first place? There's no way you could charge enough money in the fee permits to cover the cost of overseeing this program. That's what Barb probably spends most of her time dealing with, and the code enforcement officer. If you look at his report, the only thing he had on his report was trash cans. That's all he found, and the entire village is a code violation. The other thing that you guys need to start talking about is what people are allowed to do in the right-of-ways, which goes along with the tree lawn conversation that you're having. Because there's tree lawns in the new development, but there aren't any tree lawns in the rest of the village. And the things that happen in the right-of-way, like I pointed out in a email that I sent out, is that people have been building fences and walls in their front yard when it is specifically prohibited to do that. But nobody found that. The new house, or I would say newly remodeled house on Minerva Lake Road has a retaining wall that should have required a variance because you're not allowed to build walls in your front of your house. You know, the code enforcement needs to have somebody overlooking it. And now that you've taken that away, I wouldn't say taken away, it's not, I don't know, does that fall under your?
It's safety now, yeah, I've
It's-
spoken with
well,
John
Dave,
Kaminsky about getting it.
Here's your opportunity to start working on something and answer this question. Where does it say you need a permit for a driveway? And it's Eric's the one that said it's in the use of right-of-way permit. Well, they just had a blessing box put up in a right-of-way, in a side triangle, that's against the code. You can't build something in the right-of-way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was perfect timing, I would say, almost.
Could you see the little circle from there? Did it work?
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
And if I could say, thanks for replying to my email.
You're welcome.
That didn't happen with the last president. It's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
On that note, how long do I get on my timer?
You get 5 minutes.
I will not need that long.
All right, well, whenever you are ready. Just name and address.
All right, my name is Rainey Conger. My address is 4764 Black Sycamore Drive. And honestly, I don't have a comment so much as a question. Just reading through the packet for tonight, I see resolution 2023-9, and I tried to read it and comprehend, and I failed. So if somebody could help me understand what's going on with this. I know it's being passed as emergency tonight as a goal, and I'm just seeking understanding. If I missed it in a recorded meeting somewhere, I apologize. But that's all I had.
Anyone want to take that?
Brian, volunteer you.
I'm sorry. I
Um,
was looking for which one?
I can kind of do it too.
Yeah, it's the-
2023
Accepting amounts and rates.
09.
Oh, okay. So,
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
say,
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
yeah. Amendment resolution, the accepting amounts and rates is determined by the Budget Commission. Yeah, so this is about our tax collection, right? And
Yes.
it's basically every year, they send to us what the anticipated revenue is off of our, this is our property tax levies, and we have to accept that. And we have to do it within a time frame, which is why it has to be as an emergency. Because what happens every year, and feel free to go back and check me, but every year what happens is they send it about 12 days before they say, and you have to have it back to us by this day. They being the county, right? And so once again, they've sent us the documents we need to accept, right? And now we have to get it back to them in less than the time necessary to go through a full 3 reading process, plus not passing, as an emergency, because that process, even with 2 meetings a month, that is 45 days plus 30, so that's a 75 days. So when they send you the document and say, you need to approve this by your legislative body and get it back to us in
By the end
15
of the month.
days, by the end of the month, whatever that deadline is, there's not enough time. And this doesn't change the rate of taxation, this doesn't change anything. This is us just saying, yep, that document says what it says. And that's it. And it's required for us to respond by law.
Thank you.
And I want to say even more of that, I believe, is there also we have to say, yes, these are the property taxes we have collected. Yes, we have spent them. Yes, we do need to continue to receive them.
All that's part of it.
Yeah, it's all the, yes, we have these levies, we need them to keep being collected, because Franklin County collects it and then gives it back to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to legislation. We have ordinance 01-2023. Woo. Oh, I'm sorry, did we have more? Did you want to get up and speak, Barb?
Oh.
I apologize. We always invite you,
Yeah.
and then the one time you want to speak, we slip right past you. I apologize. You know the drill, 5 minutes, name and address.
Hi, my name is Barb Sutton, 3209 Minerva Lake Road, and I just wanted to publicly thank Councilperson Cameron for the amount of time that he has spent working on everything that he's been working on that helps me do my job. He's put in more hours than I can count. He's probably put in more hours than he can count, and I just want everyone to know how much I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and we have at least one more resident, so I will, okay, he's looking around, all right. You don't want to go up there and say 3,000 square feet, not 2,700?
We'll save that for next week.
You already said it for me, thank you.
Okay, moving on to legislation again then, now that we have taken away all of that. Ordinance 01-2023, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2023. This is a first reading. Of course, the 2023 budget was already passed, and now we start making amendments and changes to it as we find out what things really cost, I guess. Moving on, Resolution 2023-09. This is the one that our resident was talking about. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency. Councilperson Wolf already gave a pretty good explanation of that. So I am going to first move that we waive the second and third reading as this paperwork is rapidly coming due.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
And Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Okay, having waived the second and third reading, or first and third, I don't know. Anyway, having skipped to the third reading, I move that we pass this and declare an emergency, or pass it as an emergency. Seconded by Councilperson Koss. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Councilperson Wolf.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin.
Aye.
Councilperson Camera.
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Council President Bruger.
Aye.
And Councilperson Koss.
Aye.
All right, moved and passed. All right, moving on. A resolution capping increases to amounts established in the village fee schedule to no greater than the rate of annual inflation in the previous fiscal year. This is the resolution that was mentioned by Mr. Benedetti. Just looking at a way to, in what little ways we can, put some little reassurance in it. Of course, yes, it is true that as this is a resolution, it could obviously be overturned by a former council. Some of the thought on that is we want them to have to actually make that decision and think about it. Sometimes if all you can do is slow someone down and make them think and pause for a moment, then that's better than nothing. That is just a first reading, so moving on to our last piece of legislation. Resolution 2023-11, a resolution directing village staff to install stop signs at the intersection of Maplewood Drive and Ultra Vista Drive, and to order all signs necessary to implement such installation. And Jesse, we don't need to do any study on this, right?
Do
That's
not.
why it's in front of me?
Correct, you have, they encourage studies in the code, but they are not mandatory.
Okay, so you heard it first, people at home. This is the first reading of a legislation that would create a four-way stop at the west end of Ultra Vista and Maplewood. I guess now that I think about it, the east end is at Maplewood, so I didn't need to say that. But just so you know, there's two ends to that little connector. The west end would be a four-way stop. And that is all legislation for this evening.
All right, let's go to old business. Does anybody have any old business they would like to discuss? Anybody have any new business they would like to discuss?
Move to adjourn.
Seconded by Councilperson Koss.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, let's get the heck out of here.
All right.
All right, thank you, everyone, and thank you, community members, for showing up and commenting. We actually do love that.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Tony, I was